Call of Duty, one of the most loved yet hated video game franchises of all time. Call of Duty has always been known as a simple first-person shooter war game. Known for its smooth and simple gameplay mechanics, anyone can pick up a controller and easily figure their way around the game. The goal of the game? There have been many, but the main idea is simple. Locate the enemy and eliminate them.
How did you get into Call of Duty?
How did I get into Call of Duty? I think there were some friends in middle school when I was around 10 or 12 who introduced me to it. And I got an online service, because until then I'd just been playing offline split-screen games with friends. So ever since then I've pretty much just been playing it for the social aspect.
When the franchise started back in 2003, it was only known for being a World War II first-person shooter, and that's all it was known as for the next 4 years. The creators of the game, also known as the developers, were made up of two different studios at this time, Infinity Ward and Treyarch. Infinity Ward creating the first two Call of Duties, and Treyarch creating the third game in the franchise. For the next several years, these two studios took turns creating new Call of Duty games. One year it was Infinity Ward's game, the next year it was Treyarch's game, and back and forth it went, creating a new game every year. It brought a new way to play war games, with more computer-controlled allies who varied in quantity, providing the player with support throughout the games, offering a more realistic World War II experience.
You're supposed to throw the grenade, not the pin.
Every year, the game grew and grew in popularity and sales. In 2007, when the franchise decided to sway away from the World War II era, they released their first modern-era game. Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. It was the top-selling game worldwide in 2007. Over the next 6 years, Call of Duty was easily known as one of the most enjoyable and popular games to mine, releasing a new title each and every year, keeping fans refreshed. With the addition of Call of Duty Zombies and 2008's Call of Duty World at War, and the continuing growth of the fast-paced, addicting, and rage-inducing multiplayer fans have known to love over the years, Call of Duty was atop its game and competition. Then came 2014. Call of Duty was always known as a boots-on-the-ground game. No extra jumping, no technology that made you move faster or do things a normal human was incapable of doing. The game was always known for its simplicity, boots-on-the-ground style gameplay. In 2014, the new studio making Call of Duty, Sledgehammer Games, changed the game for good.
Check fire! Blue, blue.
In 2014, when the series changed with Advanced Warfare and the Advanced Movement, were you a fan of this change?
Not personally, because I was much worse at the game, so it wasn't as enjoyable. And the game prior to that, I had been doing pretty well, because I was good at the boots on the ground movement, the classic movement. So it just kind of threw me off, and I didn't play the game as much. The game itself, the campaign, the story was a little flat, and the multiplayer was only fun if you were playing on the ground for me, because I was so bad at the advanced movement, so that was not the best COD for me.
So not a fan of the advanced movement?
No. Definitely not.
But the criticism didn't end there. The game was also the first of the franchise to introduce something known as microtransactions, or as the game called it, supply drops. This was the ability to use real-life money to purchase in-game drops, which contained in-game items and weapons. Why was this such a highly debated topic? It was simple. People who had the money could spend it in-game to give themselves the advantage by receiving the best in-game items and weapons. This topic could be summed up in just a few words: pay to win. The idea that you could now use real-life money to receive in-game benefits and upgrades to those who simply couldn't afford it made the people go into a massive rage and demand it to be removed. The introduction to supply drops made people quit the franchise, but at the same time, from a business perspective, it was a no-brainer to keep it in the game.
I've never purchased a microtransaction in the game, actually. I've only ever purchased the DLC, the map packs. And even those I don't purchase all the time, only when I want to.
So you do not like the aspect of pay to win?
I don't, because that implies when you purchase a game, you should be able to get the full amount of enjoyment out of that game. Like, it shouldn't be as... You shouldn't have to pay for a game that you've already paid for just to enjoy it.
Ever since 2014, Call of Duty has been one of the most hated games every year. Places like YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and social media in general, the game is known to get a crazy amount of hate. Yet, it's still one of the most sold games every year, and hundreds of thousands of players still play every day.
Even though the game continues to get all this hatred, it still continues to be one of the top-selling games every single year. Why do you think this is?
Probably the people who first started buying the games are still with the series. And people love to hate on it to such a degree that I think that just kind of it has the opposite effect. It doesn't dissuade the fans from buying it. It like spurs them to keep supporting it because they know why they love it and they love the core mechanics. So they're just going to keep buying it because it's a game that's easy to learn but hard to master. So a lot of people can get into it from the very beginning.
Call of Duty has become a brand. It's known worldwide as a face of the first-person shooter genre. Many of the older casual fans either played less, got busy with their life, or just left the franchise for good. But year by year, new release by new release, comes a new and younger generation of players. It may not be a fan favorite like it once was, or give us those nostalgic memories we once had playing with our friends after school. But the game is still the game. In-your-face, super fast-paced, non-stop, ridiculous arcade-style rush of a game.
Are you aware you're being filmed right now?
No. Why would I be?
How would you rate this interview out of 12?
And 12.2.
Are you a fan of the Yeah Boy?
Oh, I've used that quite a bit, actually. When I'm playing, you get a kill and you're like, yeah, boy!